For F1 fans who remember the 2014 season, I'm sure you still have nightmares about having to watch Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg beat the entire field by 20 seconds or more pretty much every race. At round 5 in Spain, they beat the entire field by 49 seconds. They had a few off weeks here and there, but that was the reality of the first season of the turbo hybrid era. That utterly dominant season by Mercedes was built on an engine that was in its own class in terms of power output. They rode that advantage for the next 7 seasons until Red Bull finally managed to close the gap in 2021, and only after Honda had spent uncountable amounts of money trying to improve their engine. Ferrari did come close toward the end of the 2010s, but it required them to do some less than legal fuel flow things to match up to the Mercedes engine power. It is a world that F1 does not want to revisit, and they'll do anything they can to stop it. And today, I'll be checking it out, so don't go anywhere. As you will of course already know, next season Formula 1 will have a brand new chassis and power unit. The changes will be some of the biggest in F1 history, with several technical directors in the F1 paddock having called it the biggest overhaul of the past 50 years. The amount of change happening at the same time is absolutely staggering. The cars are getting smaller and lighter with smaller tyres as well. The aerodynamics are being completely overhauled with more active components to help with the new engine, which will feature a far larger electrical component and a revolutionary man-made fuel, which is designed to be a drop-in replacement for the traditional petrol in road-going cars. For the factory teams, it will be the biggest challenge of their entire career. It really can't be overstated how much the teams have on their hands as they prepare for next season. With so much changing though, there are obviously concerns. As much as there is an opportunity for any team to jump to the top of the table next season due to finding something that the rest of the grid have missed, there is also the opportunity for a team to have missed something and end up dead last, essentially racing in a F1.5 class rather than competing with the rest of the grid. Sadly, no amount of money can compensate for incompetence, and there is a good chance that one of the 11 teams next season could be racing no one but themselves at the back of the grid. More concerning though is the chance that one team ends up racing no one but themselves at the front of the grid. This is where the very recent memories of Mercedes come in. As much as Lewis Hamilton fans may look back at the 2010s with fond memories, having Mercedes racing in their own class at many races for the best part of 7 years wasn't exactly thrilling watching. There is a very genuine fear that something similar could happen starting next season. Obviously, Mercedes have done it once before, so people are naturally worried they might do it again. Of course, the man who oversaw that powertrain project is Andy Cowell, who is now the current team principal at Aston Martin. But a lot of the team who worked on that 2014 engine are still at the team. However, there are a number of other engine suppliers who could find something in the new regulations that gives them a massive advantage. Ferrari, Honda, Audi and Red Bull will also be making engines and could gain a significant advantage very early on. The FIA, however, is confident that history won't repeat itself in F1's new era starting in 2026. I don't think that we're going to have a situation where a single manufacturer has such a huge advantage as was the case in 2014, Nicholas Tombazis said in an interview with Autosport. The FIA's single-seater director believes the new engine formula is less complex, despite the substantial increase in electrical power. The engines are still not as simple as we would have liked. We would have liked to go further, but we had a lot of resistance against simplifying the regulations more. So there are things that we would have liked to be even simpler, but they are still simpler than the current generation of engines. They don't have the MGU-H, and there are a few things that have tighter limits, so we don't think the gaps will be as big as in 2014. The loss of the MGU-H is a massive change and a big part of why Audi has come to the sport and why Honda has returned. The MGU-H is the turbocharger shaft-mounted heat engine recovery system. Very simply, and without too many terms that need a lot of explaining, the MGU-H uses exhaust gas to spin a turbine during the energy recovery phase, converting the energy from the exhaust gases into electrical energy. The electrical energy is then used to power the car's electrical driveline by either charging a battery or directly powering the engine to boost the power unit's performance. It was a piece of equipment which never made it to road cars because it was just far too complex and ridiculously expensive to make. In F1, it was a huge performance differentiator, and the teams that got it right profited, meaning Mercedes. Just because the rules are simpler doesn't mean that it'll be impossible to get an early advantage. It just means it will hopefully not be as big. If someone does manage to find an early advantage that creates a divide in the field, there are new rules within the regulations that will help the rest of the grid catch up, something that was painfully lacking back in 2014. We do have newcomers, and it is always a risk at the start of a new cycle that there is some divergence initially, Tom Bazis said. Additionally, we have a cost cap for the PU manufacturers now. It means that manufacturers who are behind cannot simply throw unlimited money at their engine projects. To still offer them possibilities to catch up, the FIA has included a new system into the 2026 regulations. For that reason, there is a concept called ADUO, which is an acronym for Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities, Tom Bazis explained. This concept has been the product of a lot of work. It was already there from day one of the regulations, but in the last few months, more detail has been put into it to define exactly how it's going to operate. The new system works because the FIA will be measuring the performance of every power unit manufacturer. Any power unit that is weaker than the leaders by a certain amount after the first 5 races of each season will be given more development budget, additional time using their dynos, and potentially the chance to homologate a new engine, which basically means make structural changes to help catch up with those ahead. The level of disadvantage they need to be at will be set at 3%. So if Ferrari, for example, builds an engine which produces 3% less power than the team with the best engine, they'll be allowed to do more testing and development and expend more budget to then catch up. To give that 3% number some context, Alpine's engine was thought to be roughly 2 to 3% weaker than the rest of the grid when they were trying to get help from the FIA to make them more competitive. For anyone who follows other series outside of F1, such as the World Endurance Championship, this might sound a lot like the balance of power or BOP rules which are used in that series, something which constantly makes headlines with teams complaining about the BOP they've received. Toto Wolff recently made headlines by categorically ruling out a Mercedes WEC entry due to the balance of power rules used in that series. In that series, the FIA sets different minimum weight and maximum power limits for each car in an attempt to equalize performance between them. Wolff said that he and Mercedes chairman Ola Kalenius are not interested in competing in a championship where teams' performance is handicapped. You spend so much time and money and effort in developing the quickest car, and then you're being told to put 10 kilograms of ballast into this car, he said, and I just want to build the quickest car. The FIA have been very clear that these PU catch-up rules are not a balance of power rule, and if the teams thought they were, then we would definitely have heard complaints about them. The system the FIA have come up with, which is designed to stop long-term dominance, not try to balance a field on a race-by-race basis like the WEC BOP rules are. I want to stress that I completely refute any comment about that being a balance of power or anything like that, because first of all, the regulations are exactly the same for everyone, Tom Bazis said. It's not like we're giving them more cubic capacity, more fuel or whatever. Secondly, if there was no cost cap, they would throw a lot of money at it. When Honda were behind in 2016-2017, for a certain period, they had to spend a lot more money to catch up. With a cost cap, the risk is that you would never be able to do that, and that you would be behind eternally. You would just be humiliated for a whole regulation cycle, and clearly we don't want that. We don't think that would be fair, and I have to say that PU manufacturers have been extremely collaborative on this topic. What do you think of the new power unit rules though? Are you happy that a Mercedes-style era of dominance will be avoided with the new engines? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you haven't already, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.